Jermaine Mathews Jr. believes he has unfinished business at Ohio State, and he's using it as fuel for a monster senior season.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Jay Stevens. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we're driven by the details. Highlights make the reel, but the work behind them makes it count. Stay tuned for this week's Moving the Game Forward, the all-new Mazda CX-5, more to move every side of you. During today's show, we will discuss what Matt Patricia saw from Garrett Stover doing winter workouts, as well as why James Smith transferred to Ohio State. But first, Jermaine Mathews Jr. is one of the Buckeyes that decided to stay in Columbus. They could have gone off to the NFL, gotten drafted, and become a pro football player. But he believes he has unfinished business in the scarlet and gray, and he's using that as motivation and fuel. So 2026 is a monster year for him, and he is one of the leaders on defense. He is someone that has been a leader in different areas, in different ways. He's a talker. He never lacks confidence. But there are times in a player's career, even if you don't lack confidence, you hit some adversity. And when you hit adversity for the very first time, you figure out some things about yourself that you didn't know before. And he kind of realized he didn't like some of the plays that he made or didn't make down the stretch of last season. And he did not want to end his Buckeye career with those being the last plays people remembered from him. And so he stayed at Ohio State, could have gone elsewhere, even to the portal to go somewhere else to play in college football. But he said, no, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to finish my career at the place I started, and I'm going to use some of those plays that didn't go my way, where I didn't do what I needed to do. He's going to learn from those lessons and use those as motivation for a monster senior year. And if I'm Ryan Day, Tim Walton, Matt Patricia, I want a guy like Mathews Jr. in my corner. He's a 4-year player, a 4-year Buckeye, someone that people can look at and say, your career didn't start the way that some projected it to be. Some people are saying, oh, he should have started earlier before he did. Okay, that's up for debate. But one thing we know about Jermaine Mathews Jr. is he has gotten better every single year he's been there. And there's no reason anybody should think that he wouldn't get better this year. But when you have a little bit extra motivation, a little bit of extra want to, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that he should be a lockdown corner this year. I'm not going to say he will be, but between him and Devin Sanchez, there might be a competition between which guy should win the Big Ten, get all Big Ten first team honors. I was trying to get the right words out. Or should one of them be All-Americans? Because I do think Devin Sanchez, while he's entering year 2, he's going to be in the running for one of the best corners, not only in the conference, but also in the country, because he's going to take some massive strides this year in his development. But for Jermaine, he needs this. Every player needs a moment in their careers where something doesn't go their way, and they have to figure out how they're going to overcome this obstacle. I don't believe it would have been wrong if he would have gone off to the NFL after last year or even gone to the portal. Why? Maybe it wouldn't have been the fondest decision that he would have made. I would have understood why he decided to go to the portal, to go somewhere else. He's been at Ohio State for 3 years, won a national championship. He had a pair of gold pants. I mean, he's done a lot of things that a lot of guys never did in their careers. The one thing he didn't do or hasn't done yet is be a part of a Buckeye team that's won the conference. And that may be something that's added to why he decided to stick around. But some of those plays, a couple of the plays that happened that didn't go his way last year, there were a couple of them. One, he got scored on, Fernando Mendoza. I don't know who he threw the touchdown pass to in the Big Ten title game, but that was on Jermaine. And then I want to say Charlie Becker had a catch in the fourth quarter on Jermaine, where that kind of sealed the win and the victory for the Hoosiers. And if those two plays are the only bad plays he had all year long, that'd be enough for him to look at those players and say, I'm not comfortable with how things went. I'm not pleased with how my play went, and I am not going to allow this to be the last memories people have of me in the Ohio State uniform. You got to want guys like this on your team, not only guys that are using past failures as motivation for the future, but also guys that are really, really talented. Jermaine has an opportunity this year to raise his draft stock to an area where he could be a first-round pick. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but he has to put the work in. He has to work on his own technique, work on making sure his keys are correct every single time. He has great eye discipline and foot discipline and hip discipline in every area and every part of being a corner, because you're out there on an island. It's one of the most difficult positions to play. There was a video circulating around on the Instagram after maybe during Ohio State's practice where players were discussing what the toughest position to play in football is. Some said quarterback, some said O-line, some said D-line. There are multiple people that said corner, and one guy said it's a corner. It's corner because you're on an island every play, and that's true. If you're playing on the offensive line, you generally have somebody on both sides of you, either as a guard or a tight end. You generally have somebody on either side of you, so you're not by yourself. You're in a little bubble. On the D-line, you're going across from a guy that rests right in front of you, but also there's other pieces of the pie of the defense and the offense that are in close proximity of you. If you're a corner, and you could even be a nickel corner, you're by yourself. This isn't an easy position to play. And so it may be one of the toughest positions to play. That's more of a conversation myself and other guys might have on this show in the summer after spring ball, after things have kind of settled down leading into some of the recruiting camps and big official visit season. We'll dive into that topic later on because it's a very important one to discuss. I think quarterback is very difficult, but I think there's a conversation to be had about corner, about linebacker, about D-line, O-line, all the spots, because corner is different than all the other ones. Receiver is difficult, but it's not. It's way easier than playing corner. We'll just leave it there. What Jermaine doesn't want to leave there, which is in the past, is how he played last year. And he was very open about this during his presser a couple of days ago, I believe, where he said that the first time he met adversity at Ohio State was last year. And so when you hit adversity for the very first time and you don't back down from it, but you hit it, you face it head on and say, you acknowledge the failures, you realize how you can make some tweaks to get better, and you work hard on the practice field to get better in those areas. That's what a coach wants. Now, there's some God-given talent and athletic ability that goes into that, but acknowledging the issue, knowing how to fix that issue, and working on fixing the issue, Ryan Day wants that. You want that for him. Now, he's also working in a room with Devin Sanchez and other guys that are there that are going to be really good players this year. And Jermaine has some big comments about Devin Sanchez and his thoughts about the second-year corner at Ohio State. Quote, I love Devin. I love his work ethic. I love how he approaches the game. I really believe he's going to be one of the best corners in the country one day. I truly believe that. He's got the stature. He's got everything that you want from a corner, end quote. And when Jermaine is utilizing his own motivation this year to be better during his final year in Columbus, and he's also viewing Devin Sanchez as a guy that could be one of the best corners in the country one day, a guy that has the stature and he's got everything you want from a corner, Jermaine is going to try to do something that we talked about recently with Brandon Ennis. He's going to try to be the leader, be the vet for Devin Sanchez, so Sanchez knows while he is getting better, he has somebody in his corner that's going to give it to him straight, going to keep him on the straight and narrow, and make sure that he continues to work and strive to be the best corner in the country. Both guys have opportunities and the motivation to win the Jim Thorpe Award in any given year. But I believe that this year it could be Jermaine's year. The following year it could be Devin Sanchez. Both guys are working to be technically refined corners and to be the best corners Ohio State needs this year, so the defense can remain being one of the top units in the country. Speaking of being one of the top defenses in the country, James Smith is expected to be a big piece of the Buckeyes defense this year, and he opened up about why he transferred from Alabama to Ohio State after practice earlier this week. We'll dive into his comments after the break. This is Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward by Mazda. For those who know, the score never tells the whole story. And today, in this week's Moving the Game Forward players, Amare Bynum, for his entire freshman year playing basketball for the Buckeyes, he was a phenomenal player, kind of a breath of fresh air. At times, there were moments during the Buckeye season, things weren't going the way Ohio State's players wanted it to go. He just stayed consistent. He got thrown into the starting lineup in large part because Brandon Knoll was hurt, but also Amare Bynum became a guy that you didn't want to take off the court. Ended his freshman campaign, averaging 9 points, 5 rebounds, shot over 50% from the field. And entering year 2, as Jake Diebler is expected to keep his job as the Buckeyes head coach, Jake Diebler can lean on Amare Bynum's experience during his freshman campaign to be a better player next year for the Buckeyes, as the Buckeyes strive to snap a really long streak, another drought next year of not making the Sweet 16. The last time they made it was in 2013. For them to make the Sweet 16 next year and to snap that drought, Amare Bynum must continue to be a big Buckeye player. There's more to these players than the highlights. The early moments, late night runs, constantly showing up for their squad on and off the court. The all-new Mazda CX-5 moves the same way, with more space to connect, a bold new design, and more intuitive technology so you can stay connected to the road in every position you play. The all-new Mazda CX-5, more to move every side of you. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The tournament is here, one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same-game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new. Different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Thank you for being Locked On Buckeyes, your first listen of the day, and for being Locked On, the #1 sports podcast network. Get your first month of the Everyday Club for free when you use code MARCH. You'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat where I'm hanging out daily. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com to claim your free month. Ohio State has been very fortunate to lure and influence a lot of really good players in the portal to come and transfer to Ohio State. Jermaine Mathews Jr. is not one of those guys. He's been a Buckeye his entire career, but you have guys like James Smith, Quay Russaw, John Walker, Kyle Parker, guys that were playing at big-time programs that were really good college football players that said, I'm going to come play football in Columbus, Ohio. And when you do that, when you leave a school like an LSU or an Alabama, you start to wonder, why did a guy leave his previous school to come play here? Well, James Smith said he wanted a fresh start. And I can't knock a guy that wants a fresh start. But also wanting a fresh start is one part. But knowing what you might get into when you get there is another. When he was getting a fresh start, he talked to Caleb Downs, a little peer recruiting that was going on in the offseason, where Caleb Downs and James Smith, they have a tight relationship. They're like brothers, and they talk almost every day. And when they were talking, Caleb Downs started to turn into the recruiter, not the football player, but just the recruiter. When he recruited him to Ohio State, he sold him on Ohio State. But also when he sold him on Ohio State, James Smith saw similarities between what Ohio State currently is and what Alabama was when Nick Saban was there. And when you hear about the similarities that Smith saw between Ohio State and Alabama, you have to feel great about where Ohio State currently is as a program, because if you're doing something similar to what the GOAT of college football coaching did before he retired, you're doing something right. And this isn't a knock against Kalen DeBoer. I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach, but things change when one man leaves and another man takes over. Ryan Day has been, I think this is entering year 8 at Ohio State, and he's figured out what he needs to do, how to do it, how to stay sharp, how to be well organized, how to mesh and put this roster together and create a culture and get guys to get to know each other. When there are 51 new players, it's a different animal, a different task for Ryan Day to orchestrate and try to create some team bonding activities because these guys don't know each other. And if you want them to be as comfortable as they need to be on the football field to go all out for each other, you have to work on doing things now for the players to come together and not just be teammates as far as in name only, but to be locker room buddies and guys that hang out off the field and outside of the locker room, because that's going to help the Buckeyes be the best team they can be. He also went on to kind of describe some of the differences between the Big Ten and the SEC. And when I was reading this, I'm like, oh, the SEC has changed a little bit. Now, the SEC is still really good football. They probably will have the most guys drafted of any conference at this upcoming NFL draft. That's no surprise. That's been going on for a very long time. But I think you'll like some of the comments he made comparing the Big Ten to the SEC. Quote, the intensity is almost like everything is so much faster in the Big Ten. In the SEC, we're big and kind of slower. Here it's faster, more speed. We're trying to wear an opponent down. The intensity is different. Everything's so intentional, end quote. That's what people used to say about the SEC and the Big Ten, but flip-flop. Big Ten is slow. The Big Ten is not a super fast, blazing speed conference. No. The SEC was a fast conference. They had the speed. They did things intentional. Now, a lot of this also is because there's a conference expansion, and so the Big Ten now is 18 teams. So you have USC and Oregon and Washington in there, yeah, and UCLA. It's going to kind of shift the dynamic and the narrative about how the Big Ten plays football. But also, when you have some of the other schools there, it's also going to change the speed the other teams have to play when they're playing the football. You can't gloss over the fact that this is also a football player at Ohio State. So the best daily thoughts he's going to have, the best daily experience he's going to have, about playing in the Big Ten is where he currently is at Ohio State. The intentionality of the things Ryan Day does, the speed Ryan Day works with, that he demands of the players. That's a Ryan Day thing. Now, he has played Wisconsin, and he has played some Big Ten teams, played Michigan, and so he has played Big Ten teams. It's not like he hasn't played Big Ten teams, but when you're entrenched in Ohio State's way of doing things, you might look at that and say, oh, this is Big Ten football. By listening to him talk, I don't think he's thinking that wholeheartedly, but you also have to think, well, he is kind of viewing it as, what have you done for me lately? You just got done out of an Ohio State practice. Ohio State has dudes, like elite dudes on both sides of the ball. So you might be thinking, well, this is Ohio State's thing. No, the Big Ten is becoming faster. The Big Ten is becoming more intentional. Coaches have to be better, because if you're not, you're going to get passed up. There's a comment Curt Cignetti recently made about Nick Marsh, Michigan State transfer, who wore gold cleats on the first day of practice. And Curt Cignetti responded in the way Cignetti is going to behind the microphone. Well, Nick Marsh is coming in, has to change his ways, because I'm not going to lie to you, Indiana's going to do things differently than Michigan State did. But while he's doing things differently, he's going to have to play a little bit faster, play a little bit freer, not just because of Curt Cignetti and because he's going to demand that, but because if he doesn't, he won't be one of the better receivers in the Big Ten, because the Big Ten does play faster than it used to. The Big Ten does have better players than it used to. The Big Ten is a larger conference, so teams are adjusting their level of play and their style of play to match and to overcome some of the things other teams are doing. James Smith, to me, can start this year. I have not penciled in anybody on the interior of the D line. I have stuff. I have not put anything in pen. I have stuff kind of penciled, erased a little bit. Got guys with their names half written, sarcastically half written. But I do see a scenario where James Smith comes in and starts. I'm not even going to say Eric Houston is going to be a definite starter. I'm not sold on the guys on the interior starting yet. But with James Smith coming in, the maturity that he brings to Ohio State, there's a real opportunity for this young man to keep this mindset that he's bringing to Columbus and to be a dog on the interior. Speaking of being a dog, Garrett Stover wowed Matt Patricia, and Matt Patricia used a very interesting phrase to describe what Garrett Stover did during winter workouts, and I believe that is going to help him be a big-time player for the Buckeyes this year. We'll dive into all that after the break. This is Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. You wouldn't show up on game day without a plan, and you wouldn't show up to a job without the right parts. That's why putting Supply House in your starting lineup is always the right call. Here are the stats: 300,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products, 500 tried and true brands, and 90% of the country is in the 1 to 2 day delivery zone. Need a last minute coupling, a compressor, a press tool? They've got it, and they'll get it to you quickly. They are clutch. If you're a pro in the trades, you can join the MVP of Rewards programs and become a trade master. Pros get exclusive member-only pricing, priority shipping, industry-leading customer service, and is all absolutely free. Visit supplyhouse.com/TM to learn more about becoming a trade master. Use promo code SH5College for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Promo code SH5College. Supply House, real people, real service. This episode is also brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S., download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and clear swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures, commission, merchant, and swap firm. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes, for making this show your first listen of the day, and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Remember, it's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Speaking of your team every day, we're going to dive deeper into some of the other guys on the Buckeyes offense and defense, because we're going to hit a lot of players. Jermaine Mathews Jr., James Smith, guys that I believe are going to be starters this year. We also need to talk more about a guy named by the name of Garrett Stover, a guy who is easily overlooked. When you have incoming freshmen from a year ago and Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford, they made big plays. It's kind of easy to look at them and say, oh, those guys are the next men up. Also, that's the next linebacker duo at Ohio State. Also, when you have guys like Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, you may look at that duo and try to figure out who the next duo is going to be, not just coming in as incoming freshmen, but you want to try to figure out who the next pair would be for the upcoming season. While I don't think Garrett Stover is going to start this year, there's a realistic opportunity for him to find his way on the field and carve out his own lane to play on defense, not just with special teams, but on the defense. And this offseason, Matt Patricia discussed some things that he saw from Garrett Stover that literally, he described it this way, quote, blew the doors off, end quote, in the offseason training program. And he described that when talking about Garrett Stover becoming an Iron Buckeye. Patricia said Garrett Stover is making plays this spring that he wasn't making last season. Let's not forget Garrett Stover. When he committed to Ohio State and signed, K. Stover was still on campus. He was still playing, and so there was that family tie, family connection. Now that Kate is gone and off to the NFL, no one really talks about the Stover that much. But I see a realistic opportunity for him to continue to make plays, to be either the third linebacker in the room or be a guy that's a special teams player, the fourth linebacker, and is a key piece of the Buckeyes' goal line defense. Goal line, short yardage, put them together. He can be that guy. And it's easy to view him as one of the others. Not the others as a role player in basketball, but one of the others as a guy that's good, he's solid, but homie ain't playing football this year, right? I mean, he should just transfer to go somewhere else to play football. He ain't playing here. It would be easy to look at him and view him that way. Don't do it. Don't do it at all. Garrett Stover is a player that if he continues to make plays and continues to do the right things in the offseason workout program, he's going to find himself on the field. I mean, it's very similar to Caden Curry. We saw what Caden Curry did last year. While they played two different positions, you can still see similarities in Caden Curry's career and Garrett Stover's career. Caden Curry came in, was behind Tuimoloau, was behind Sawyer, knew he wasn't going to play a whole lot, but what did he do? He kept working. He kept grinding. He kept pushing himself in the weight room, kept pushing himself in the sprints, kept pushing himself in everything he did to get himself to be a starter for Ohio State. The next thing you know, he's leading Ohio State in sacks, and he is raising and moving up draft boards as we speak. For Garrett Stover, he just has to do the same thing Caden Curry did. Stay focused, stay laser focused, locked in, like you want a racehorse to be at the Kentucky Derby. You don't want him to not have them blinders on and to veer off to the right, to the left, and lose. No, if you're in first place, you want to make sure everything you do is in the prep for the race is tightened up so the blinders have him focused going straight. But also, you want to make sure you yourself, the jockey, is making sure the horse is well prepared. It's also the owner. I don't know much about the horse racing. I was trying to use an analogy, and as I got deeper into it, I'm thinking, I'm going to say something that doesn't make sense. Someone's going to call me out on it, and I'm just going to back off right here. But Garrett Stover must keep the same energy all offseason long. When the spring game rolls around on April 18th and everyone gets their eyes on some of the newer Buckeyes, James Smith, Quay Russaw, John Walker, guys like that, Kyle Parker, they're also going to get their eyes on Garrett Stover once again. And I hope you're not surprised when he makes big plays, when maybe he gets a sack or maybe gets an INT, maybe gets a pass break up on 3rd and 3, whatever the case may be. Don't be surprised when Garrett Stover is all over the field making plays, and you have to kind of reevaluate your own mind about what the two deep at Ohio State is going to look like. Garrett Stover can be that guy. He can be the third linebacker at Ohio State. Now, it's going to be tough because Riley Pettijohn has the physical makeup and the traits to be a dude for Ohio State one day. And when you say that about a guy now, you mean, oh, he's going to play this year? Possibly. But for Garrett Stover, he controls a lot. He's not looking at somebody else to fail or to fall. He's trying to control the narrative and control what he can. And one thing he can control is what he is doing in practice. As we move forward and get deeper into spring practice, there will be some scrimmages. There will be the spring game. There will be more press conferences. And we're going to dive deeper into players like Garrett Stover, a player like a John Walker, a player like a Turbo Rogers, who we talked about a little bit, really haven't touched on lately. I don't know when we'll do a show or kind of a segment or two about Tavian St. Clair, but there have been some really good reports from him about his play this week in spring ball. So we're going to dive deeper into a lot of players that won't be starters but are making big plays in spring practice, because if they're doing this now, if their development is at this rate now, they're gaining the trust of the players, the coaches, and everybody as a part of this team, so that everyone can view them as players that they might not be starters this year, but they'll be big-time Buckeye players in the future. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day, and for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. If you never miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On Buckeyes ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Basketball. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on your Feel Good Friday. We'll see you next time.